Hello and welcome back to class. So today we'll be doing the collar to our jacket. So and already if you have drafted your pattern, you should have this collar pattern cut already. So next thing we do is we'll be using our IMO canvas. You see we use that. Normally we should use a different canvas for this, a thicker one, but it is really not available, so we're going to be using this, and it's still going to be giving us a very cool effect plus a wording. So we are going to be using wording too. Normally a wording that is not fusible is very okay, but it's not available and we can still use this and it's still going to give us a very good result. So let's get started. Right on our canvas, the first thing we do is mark out our distance. You mark out the collar. So you mark this point and this point as well. That's important. And maybe this point. So don't mind this line, it was actually a mistake. So now we have the one part, and then we place this thing like this again, and then we duplicate it onto the other parts. So now I have my collar right on the canvas. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is cut it out. So now I have my collar cut out, and then don't forget this point. This point we marked earlier would also be marked right here. And then you're going to have to connect that right to this point. Right to the midpoint. And then from that place also. Okay. So you notch the midpoint. You notch this point as well. And this other side. So once you have this done, the next thing we do is take our wording, and then you can place the wording any way. It will be stretchy anyways, no matter the way. So you don't have to like let that be on bias. It doesn't have to be on bias. And then what you do is you place it on top and then cut out the wording as well. So let's do that. So now we have both our wording and this thing cut already. So the next thing we are going to be doing is I'll be taking this to the machine. So let me mark this point. How do I do it? Okay. So that we'll see the points we've marked. So the next thing we are going to be doing is take it to the machine, and you stitch this edge, and then we do a little more of stitching to it, like basting, yeah, like part stitching. Let me say part stitching by machine. Normally you can part stitch it by hand, but we are going to be using machine so that it will be faster this time around. So let's get to the machine and then do that. So you give it another row. You can see, so you give it another row of stitching. Right here and another row again. So once you are done with the lower parts, stitching all this lower part, as you can see, then we move on to the upper part of it, and then we do a little bit of stitching to those parts too. So let's get that done. So you can see, so right here we should do a little bit of zigzag. You can choose to make it straight like all others, but this is just to save time, and it's still going to be very great. So now you can see this is all done and ready for the next stage, which is the ironing. So let's take it right to the ironing stage and give it a good press. So now we are right here at the ironing stage, and as you can see, my lines, the first thing I do is the lines I drew the other time, let me redraw it so that it will be a bit clearer to us. This line, actually I've sewn that line already, so it shouldn't be hard to locate. So we are going to have to fold it at that area. So let's press it first. Okay, now that we've done this pressing, the next thing we do is, can you see what I'm trying to do? Let me show it. So I'm trying to fold it right at this point where I've marked with chalk. So right at this point, you can see what I'm doing. So, and after this, you start to bend it. You bend it like this, so that it form a shape. You can see it's already forming a shape already. So I'm sure you can see what we have right here. Our collar is almost getting ready. So once we've done this, but how do you know how much to curve this point? I would say about 2 inches at maximum is okay. So how do you do the measurement? You measure from this point to this point. So right here I have my 2 inches. So 2 inches is cool, but for some figures it may be more, and for some it may be less. We are going to still deal with that a little bit later. So right now I have my under collar fixed. The next thing we have to do is go on ahead and do our top collar. So you can see, the next thing we do now is the top collar. So let's get to it. So here is the fabric I'm going to be using for my top collar, and as you can see, I have added interfacing. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is place my under collar right on top of it. Okay, let's do it like this. Place my under collar right on top of it like this, as you can see, and then I am going to have to trim all these edges away. So right here you need to Right here you need to leave about 1 inch, and right here about 1 inch here as well, just for now at least. And then at the top here about half of an inch. So don't forget 1 inch right here, 1 inch right here. So the midpoint, yeah, we need to mark the midpoint. So now that we've done this, let's take this to the to the machine and sew this point together. But before we do that, I'll need to mark this point so that I won't have issues when I want to sew. I'll know exactly where to sew. Oh, this chalk. Okay, so this is where I'm going to be sewing onto this point. So let's take it to the machine and do that now. Oh God, I forgot to. I've done this and I actually forget to record it. Well, anyways, you can see this. This is the line I drew. I just placed this one on top of that line and I just placed this one on top of the fabric right from that place, and then I stitched. So I stitch it all around like this. So you can use a zigzag to do this. It will actually be nice. And you can also do it by hand. Yes, in fact, most times I do it by hand. But this is also a very good way to do it. So once we've done this, you can see when you do it like this, you see what it's looking like from here. And then you may then take it to your iron and press. So now we're going to be pressing. So now that this is pressed, you can see this the fabric extends beyond this thing, so that when you fold it to the right side, you are not seeing any fabric. You're not seeing the black stuff, but rather the fabric itself. So once we've done that, I think the next thing we need to do is cut this edge off. And before you cut that edge, what you make sure to do is make sure this place is about 0.75 all around. That is what you cut if you want to cut. So you're extending this also beyond 1 inch. This beyond 1 inch. So once we have that mark, the next thing we do is cut. Yeah. So now that we've cut this bit off, you can see that I'll do a little bit of stretching right here. A bit of stretching, just right at this midpoint. So you can see what that stretching there is. So the next thing we do is take another piece and cut a bias from it. So you can see this bit. I'm going to be cutting this bit on bias, and I'll be cutting about 1.5 of an inch, 1.5 inch, right here on bias. So you can see I've cut this on bias, and if I stretch it, you see, that is important. So now we take it to the machine again and then sew it together. So we are here again. So this is my stuff that I've cut some bias, and then I'm going to be placing this right on top of it. You can see. And I'm going to be sewing 1/4 of an inch from here. 1/4 of an inch right here. That's what I'm going to be sewing. So now I've sewn 1/4 of an inch, and then let's take it to the machine and press, to the iron and press. Oh, before we go, you see this? I'm going to have to open this seam. You may choose to iron it before you press, but I'm just going to do it immediately. So you are going to open. You can see I opened the seam. You open the seam and then you sew both sides. So I'm going to be opening the seam. So now that I've sewn one side, you turn it to the other side and sew the other side as well. That will be opened already. Oh, let's not assume it is open. So now you can see this now. So right now you place this right like this, and then you mark. Aha. So you can see I've marked this point. So I'm going to have to cut away 1/2 of an inch or maybe a little less from my chalk mark. And then you can see that so now that I've done this, you can see that I almost have this thing done. So the next thing I will need to do is maybe press this point. Not necessary actually, but you may just choose to. So this way we have this thing almost ready. You can see what is happening here. So let's take it now straight to the jacket and fix it on the jacket. Let's see how it's going to look on the jacket. So right now here we are on our jacket, and then you can see I marked the line already. So you try and check if this line matches. Yeah, this is matching, which is still cool. And right to the other side. Cool. So, but when you're doing it, you make sure your roll line is following the same roll line on the collar. It shouldn't be away from the roll line, or else there might be issue. So we are just going to make sure it's straight on the roll line.